Hi, I'm Connie Alexander. Native Americans were instrumental in the development of the beautiful Appaloosa horse. Their efforts were nearly destroyed in 1876 by the U.S. government. Ancient drawings of spotted horses have been found in caves located in France. These drawings date back 20,000 years ago. Spotted horses were brought to the North American continent by the Spanish conquistadors. They rode these horses during the exploration of the continent. The ancestors of these original spotted horses became the foundation stock of the Nez Perce Indians. This tribe, located in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, selectively bred their horses to produce strength, speed, and agility. It is believed that the Nez Perce Indians were the first tribe to practice selective breeding. They gelded inferior stallions and traded mares that were inadequate to create a superior horse. The sophisticated breeders and horsemen bred for color and intelligence. They also bred for stamina and strength, two qualities vital for work and war. In 1876, war erupted between the Nez Perce Indians and the U.S. Army over disputed territories. They refused to be moved from tribal lands to U.S. government reservations. The Appaloosa horse carried the Nez Perce and their leader, the famous Chief Joseph, on a 1,300-mile journey. They traveled over brutal territory that ended in the Bear Palm Mountains of Montana. Their attempt to find refuge in Canada had failed. Chief Joseph was defeated. The Appaloosa breed nearly disappeared when the horses that had survived the journeys were surrendered to the U.S. Army. Most were slaughtered. A few were displaced to local settlers. The name Appaloosa originated with white settlers who migrated to the northwest Palouse region. They named the unique spotted horses they saw there as the Palouse horses. The term evolved to the Appaloosa horses and then finally to Appaloosa. In 1938, Claude Thompson of Moro, Oregon, determined to reestablish the Appaloosa and preserve the spotted horse for the equine world. He and other horsemen formed the Appaloosa Horse Club and set about increasing the numbers of the descendants of the few horses that survived the Nez Perce War. There have now been over 600,000 Appaloosa registered. The Appaloosa stands between 14.2 and 15.2 hands high. The breed has many distinguishing features. The most obvious is the coat color. There are 5 main coat patterns. They include leopard, blanket, snowflake, marbleized, and frost. These horses have 3 other identifiable characteristics. The Appaloosa has mottled skin, a white sclera, and striped hooves. The sclera is the area surrounding the iris of the eye. Like humans, the Appaloosa has a white sclera. Because of their intelligence and agility, the Appaloosa is popular as a stock horse and is frequently ridden in Western pleasure and barrel racing. They also perform well in the English discipline of jumping and dressage. The Appaloosa is very people-friendly and is often chosen for young riders because of its calm disposition and tolerance. The Appaloosa has as colorful a history as it does coat pattern. We are truly fortunate that this unique spotted horse survived and continues to flourish today. Jerry Jones of the Circle K Riding Pavilion breeds Appaloosas for color, disposition, and intelligence. He gave us his insight on this historic spotted horse.
Well, the Appaloosa Registry accepts thoroughbred stallions, quarter horse stallions, and Arabian stallions. That means if you've got a colored mare, an Appaloosa mare that's recognized as an Appaloosa mare that had a regular registry, you can breed a thoroughbred stallion to that mare. If she produces a colored baby, that baby will be registered. If it's not, it's registered into the what we call a non-characteristics. And but they recognized the 3 different breeds. So you could have one maring breeder to 4 different stallions, you know, of 4 different breeds. The reason I chose the Appaloosa was because of the diversity of the breed. And you can take an Appaloosa and breed to an Arabian and have an endurance horse. And that's one of the first things we did, was do some endurance work. But the characteristics, they were raised by the Nez Perce Indians in Idaho in a 200-year period starting in around the turn of the 17th century. And the horses actually lived with the Indians. And so they were a personal, compatible type horse. And that was another reason I chose the Arabian breed to deal with these horses, because the Arabs kept those horses right with them, opposed to some of the English bred horses. Characteristics, they're a color breed. And we've bred horses for disposition. And in any breed, you're going to have horses with better dispositions. I don't know of any breed that I'd say, you know, you're not going to find a horse with a bad disposition in that breed. You're like people. And so in the breeding, you try to breed a horse for conformation, for athletic ability, straight legs, but mostly in our business, I've got to have a horse with a good disposition, compatible with people, intelligent. You know.
Colic, simply put, means stomach pain or intestinal discomfort. But as any horse owner who has suffered through a bout of colic with their horse knows, it can be very frightening. Dr. Johnson discussed what to look for and what to do for your horse if you suspect colic. Dr. Cindy, tell me, what is the most common problem you find in horse health care?
The most common problem would by far be colic. It's the most common emergency that we have. It can be due to intestinal causes or non-intestinal causes. Colic simply refers to a general abdominal pain.
I see. Well, what are some of the intestinal causes of colic?
Some examples would be gas accumulation, gas distension in the bowel, torsion of the bowel or twisting of the bowel, things like worms, bowel infection. Any of those kinds of things could be examples of what would cause it.
Okay. Well, what would non-intestinal
things
causes
like
be?
Problems from pregnancy, uterine pain, bladder infections, any type of splenic problem, kidney problems, anything in the abdomen that might cause pain, a horse will react the same way if it's intestinal or non-intestinal.
I see. What are some of the things I'm going to see in a horse, or a horse owner would notice in his horse if they were developing colic or had developed colic?
When a horse has a colic episode, it's extremely painful for a horse. And a horse does not handle pain very well. And so a lot of times they'll try to injure themselves. They'll try to hurt themselves. Yeah. They may fling themselves to the ground and roll around over and over again. Yeah. They may stomp at the ground and paw at the ground, or paw and kick at their own sides, or bite their sides. I've seen them throw themselves into walls. Sometimes they'll break into a sweat all over their body, and they'll pant very hard, they'll breathe very hard. Just like us when we have a severe pain, only they are very violent, as you can imagine that would be.
So not only is the horse in pain, but he could very well injure himself very, very badly with this.
Just from the
pain,
symptoms.
From the pain.
Yes.
So basically, are you saying there's really no way to prevent colic?
Well, that's right and wrong. Colic has so many different causes. There's no surefire way to say, if you do this, you will not get colic in your horse.
Right.
But some good things to do are make sure that you feed your horse a good hay, avoid spoilage in your hay, keep your horse on a regular feeding schedule. Avoid any sudden changes in diet, even in drinking water. You don't want to change that rapidly.
Right, right. So what you're saying is good management practices are your best prevention.
That's the best defense that we have.
Okay. What are some of the things that a vet will do when it's been determined that a horse does have colic? What are some of the options that a vet has?
Well, the number one thing that we want to do is we want to control the pain first and foremost. When we first arrive, we want to get that pain under control so that we can handle that animal in order to evaluate what is causing his pain.
Right.
And so sometimes we'll use anesthetics, sometimes analgesics, sometimes simple anti-inflammatories. Other options that we have for treatment are the passage of a nasogastric tube. we'll pass a tube through the nostril, through the esophagus, and into the stomach. Sometimes that can relieve that gaseous distension that's going on in there.
Right.
Sometimes we might even put mineral oil down through that tube in order to relieve any type of blockage that might be going on, and also to coat and soothe that bowel if we have a gastritis.
I see.
Other options are things like intravenous fluid therapy. Sometimes the only option that we have is abdominal surgery, which of course, you know, that would have to be done at a referral center,
Right.
because that is a major surgery.
Right.
But sometimes they have to go in there and they have to remove pieces of damaged bowel. Sometimes they have to go in there and just untwist a piece of bowel, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's the only other option that we have.
Is this a condition that can actually cause a horse to die? Could a horse die from this?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Sometimes they can die just from the initial problems because they will become toxic. They will become toxic if that bowel is torched.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to evaluate them and determine if we can help them or if we can't. Sometimes euthanasia is the only option that we have.
Okay. What if a horse owner determines or believes that their horse has colic? What should they do?
The first thing to do is to call your veterinarian immediately. If you feel like he's in a colic episode, go ahead and call.
Okay.
But in the meantime, things you want to do, first and foremost, is be very careful around him. Like I said, it's a very, very violent episode, and he's not worried of whether or not he's going to hurt you or himself.
Right.
So be very careful just for your own safety.
Okay.
The next thing to do is to walk him. Lead him around. If you can keep him up and keep him moving, that is very important, because you don't want him to get down and roll around. Sometimes if they roll around, that can cause a torsion,
Right.
so that it can actually worsen the condition. We can start with a simple condition and become a very, very serious condition.
Right.
So it's real important to keep him moving, keep him walking.
Okay.
Some things you can do is offer him a little bit of water frequently. See if you can get him to drink a little bit of water. That'll relieve some of his tension.
Okay.
That'll help as well.
Okay. What if I can't get my vet right away?
Keep walking. Just
Okay.
keep walking. I've had people that had to walk for hours and hours, but if that's all you can do, then that's what you
all
need
you
to
can
do,
do.
because that may save the horse's life.
Exactly.
Another
Exactly.
possibility is, if you can't walk him that long, put him on a trailer. Put him in a horse trailer, ride him around a while. I've actually had animals become better and out of the colic just from riding around
Just
on a
from
horse
taking
trailer.
a ride, and
Just
that's the
from the bumpy
movement.
ride.
Yeah.
The movement and the motion will
Yeah.
actually loosen the impaction or untwist the torsion, or whatever, but it'll make them feel better.
I see. Thanks, Dr. Johnson. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
As you can tell, colic is a very, very important subject and could quite possibly be life-threatening for your horse. If you have any questions about what we've talked about today, or you have seen symptoms like this in your horse, please contact your veterinarian. They'll be glad to give you as much information as you need. Thank you. Liability is an important issue for all horse owners. Do you allow friends and neighbors to ride your horse? Do you have young children as close neighbors? In reality, horses, by their inherent nature, place those around them in a certain amount of risk. These risks are always present, and anyone who rides or chooses to spend time with horses is assuming the burden of responsibility for maintaining their safety. There are certain circumstances that do not fall within the category of inherent risk. These situations would include, but are not limited to, the following: providing faulty equipment for a rider, allowing an inexperienced rider on a horse who requires more control, allowing a rider to ride on property with hidden dangers, or intentionally causing harm to a rider. More than 40 states have enacted equine activity statutes. These laws help define the obligations of both horse owners and the general public. These laws in some ways limit or define liability in the horse industry. They do not eliminate liability. Posting a warning, such as "ride at your own risk" in a prominent place, and asking the rider to sign a release of liability as dictated in your state's equine statute may help lessen the chance of legal action. These actions could be protective in case of an accident or injury to a rider which is not due to negligence on your part. To find out if your state has an equine activity statute, or if there is a requirement for posting of liability notices, you can contact your State Department of Agriculture. There are also special issues with children. Children have a natural curiosity about horses. They often make decisions that are not conducive to maintaining their safety. You may be found financially responsible if a child is injured by your horse on your property, even if you haven't given the child permission to be there. You may be able to decrease your liability by adding more extensive fencing, posting warning signs, and by telling neighbors that their children do not have permission to be near your horse when you are not present. This information does not constitute legal advice. If you have questions about a specific liability issue, please direct them to an attorney. The more information you have about liability, the better you are able to make quality decisions about your horse and property. Did you know the horse's first known ancestor was named Eohippus and stood only 3 hands high? These small equine ancestors lived around 75 million years ago. Al Dunning has held the esteemed title of Horseman of the Year from the American Quarter Horse Association, a title that is well deserved. This multiple-time world champion talked with us about competition, cutting, and championship riding. Mr. Dunning, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I'm going to ask you a really simple question. I know that you're a world champion many times over. There are a lot of people who would like to know how you got there. How did you become a world champion?
You know, I guess it's a long process. You know, it's sure not something that's overnight. I started riding when I was about 10 years old in Chicago.
Chicago?
I was born in Chicago, and I lived there till I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So I learned to ride on the bridle paths and rode English.
Oh.
My sisters I had 3 older sisters, so I was like the henpecked little boy,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
And they drugged me along with them to all the shows and to ride and the stables and stuff. So it was either ride or be bored.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I decided that I would start riding. And as we moved to Arizona in 1958 and went to a stable and started riding there pretty consistently, my sisters bought a horse for $300. And anyway, they started liking boys.
What kind of a horse?
Quarter horse.
Quarter horse, of course.
Of course, always quarter horses. I actually, my first job I ever had was in 1965. I was 15 years old and I worked for an Appaloosa ranch. So, and I've trained some thoroughbreds and I've trained some paints and things like that, but and some Arabs.
Yeah.
But my main business is Appaloosas.
Is the Appaloosas?
But anyway, so we started riding. My sisters got interested in boys, and I got interested in horses, and it kind of went on from there. I started showing when I was 12 years old.
Oh my!
I went to work for a trainer when I was 13, cleaning stalls, working around, riding a few horses.
Doing whatever was necessary.
And I wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
And my father died when I was pretty young, and I decided that this guy was the kind of guy I wanted to be like. He was like John Wayne.
Oh, really?
And his name was Jim Paul, and he was a big influence in my life.
Oh, fantastic.
So I just went on from there.
And you went on from there. How old were you when you won your first world championship?
I started training professionally in 1970, and I really started showing more nationally in 1973. I had my first world champion in 1976.
1976.
Yeah,
not very long after you went professional.
No, not very long. I've been real lucky.
Yeah.
I had a great horse, and I won 2 world championships in the same year.
Oh my.
I won a world championship in working cow horse that year, and in Western riding. And I had a little mare named Mr. Bull, and then the horse that I won the working cow horse on ended up being the greatest horse I ever rode. His name was Expensive Hobby.
Which he was.
Yeah, he's an expensive hobby. And you know what? He's still alive, and he's 30 years old now.
Oh. We've got some real good footage of your exhibition the other day, and one of the things you mentioned was, let me get this right, foundation, feeling, and finish.
Oh, gosh. I like that.
And I know you're supposed to wrap that up in 30 quick words.
You know, I guess the idea is that you can't get to the finish without the foundation. It's really important that you build the horse up from the bottom on up, meaning they've got to have the kind of flexibility, they got to have the good right and left turn, they got to have a good backup, they got to be smooth with their gaits, all that stuff's got to be right.
Right.
And it's so much easier to start with a young horse and train them right from the beginning than it is to take a horse and start to fix them after they've already been basically messed up, you know. So, and my goal is, then there's a lot of clinicians here and they do a lot of things with horses, but I'm focused on from the day I start them to get them to a finality, which is be a World Championship show in Oklahoma City, the American Quarter Horse World Championship show.
Yeah, that's the end point for you.
That's well, it's not the end, because sometimes we go back and we try to win another one.
Well, that was good. That kind of leads into my next question. The horses that you train and ride are specifically for show, but they could you could use these very same horses, working horses. You probably would not do that, but they're trained to do that.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
See, I'm the kind of trainer that thinks a horse has to be really broke. Okay. You know, I should be able to take you to my ranch, and I should be able to put you on my horse, and we can go ride out in the desert, and that horse would be really good out there.
Yeah.
I could put you on cows, and he could work a cow well, all that. So we train a real versatile horse. Every horse can't make a world champion.
Right.
So our goal is to try to make a horse that that could be a very versatile horse, and if he doesn't make a world champion, you could take him and make a trail riding horse out of him. You could make a team penning horse out of him. You could you know, just about do anything, rope horse, whatever you want to do. So, and I'm really big on working every horse on the cow. So even the horses we train for reining horses and other events get worked on the cow, which makes them pretty versatile.
Oh yeah.
And we try to have a lot of fun with this, because that's what it's supposed to be.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dunning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
We joined Tennessee high school rodeo participants at the Heidelberg's Agricultural Pavilion in Middle Tennessee for an exciting day of riding, roping, and yes, sometimes falling off a horse. Scott Nez Perce started his rodeo career at an early age, bronc busting sheep. Scott, how are you today?
Pretty good.
Thanks for talking with us. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing later on here in this arena.
We're having a Tennessee high school rodeo, and we'll be doing some bareback riding, some steer racing, some saddleback riding, some team.
How long have you been involved in rodeo?
I've been rodeoing horses for about 4 years, but I've been involved with it since I was about 3.
Since you was about 3. Tell me, what in the world were you doing at 3 years old in a rodeo?
I used to ride sheep.
Ride sheep?
Mutton busting.
It's called mutton busting, huh?
Yes, that was a long time ago.
Tell me, is your family involved in this sport with you?
My dad, he puts on rodeos. Mom just backs me up, helps me.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of work to be involved in this rodeo, isn't it?
Yeah, horses are real hard to take care of. And you got to always practice about every day.
But would you do anything else?
Nah, there ain't nothing else to better. Yes, I really like it.
So that sounds to me like you would recommend this for other people.
Oh yeah, it's a good thing. It keeps you out of trouble. You know where you're at. Parents know where you're at.
Let me ask you this: do you think you'll continue to rodeo after you get out of high school?
I'm gonna try to. I'm going to college, I think, at UT Martin for a rodeo team.
At UT Martin?
I'm gonna try to be on a rodeo team and hope to make a career out of it.
Make a career out of it. That's fantastic. I think you'll do great. We're wishing you the best of luck out there today, Scott.
Thank you.
The National High School Rodeo Association has as its stated mission to promote the positive image of rodeo, preserve the Western heritage, and maintain the highest regard for the livestock.
The Tennessee High School Rodeo Association was formed approximately 28 years ago with only one rodeo per year, approximately 20 to 25 contestants, and we have grown now. Right now we're at about 86 contestants,
oh my goodness,
which we have had over 150 to 160, but we're down right now. But while rodeos are up, we go now all over the state of Tennessee. We have anywhere from 22 to 25 rodeos a year now.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're real proud of it. The sport of rodeo is family oriented. If you want to keep your child with you and know where they're at, you couldn't ask for a better organization. The kids are just super. The parents are great workers. It's just a fantastic, I couldn't explain to anybody to make them understand what it would be like.
I've been involved in rodeo since I was about 7 years old. I'd like to go on to collegiate rodeo.
To collegiate rodeo. I understand you're a champion here in the state of Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you won last year.
I received the 2000 all-around cowgirl, the rookie cowgirl, and the breakaway roping champion titles. I think that it's a good thing to do, that it keeps people out of a lot of trouble.
You think so?
Because I'm so busy practicing, I don't have any time to do anything else.
Second place goes to Ashley Miller and Jean Hancock.
Tonight I'll be team roping with my partner and breakaway roping. I remember when I was little, I used to run barrels off my dad's calf roping horse. And they were terrible, but I was trying.
You know, it's a family thing. My parents come with me. This is my 4th year of high school rodeo. I'm a senior this year. And the friends I've made, and you know, even my friends' parents. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, do you think you'll keep rodeoing after you get out of high school?
Yes, ma'am. I hope to attend college on a rodeo team and maybe a scholarship there. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, we wish you the best tonight, all the blue ribbons in the world. Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
It's been nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This youth organization was founded in 1947 by Claude Mullins, Alton Allen, and Leon Kahafnet. Their goal was to promote sportsmanship and to encourage young people to stay in school. Today, this national youth organization continues to promote education. They stress the importance of taking responsibility and dedication. Additionally, the NHSRA places strong emphasis on leadership training. It takes a great deal of effort to move these young people and their horses from event to event. Families work together behind the scenes to provide the support necessary to make those moments in that arena possible. We nearly lost the Appaloosa horse because their value wasn't recognized by the dominant culture in the 1800s. When we recognize that value and worth do not have to equal financial profit, we will assure the survival of horses and other animals. Their presence in our lives will be a blessing, always. Remember, when you are horsing around, be safe.